Let us now talk about Thorndike and the theory of connectionism and Thorndike's laws of learning. Now, sometimes you might see questions about laws of learning. Sometimes you will see questions about connectionism. So that is the reason why I have included this in this video. And these are very simple concepts, and these laws are also very simple, so you'll be able to understand it very easily. So connectionism is a theory that says that learning consists of connections between stimuli and responses. So the first time that I saw a candle, I must have been attracted by the flame and I must have put my finger in the flame, and I realized that it causes pain. So I learned the connection between the stimulus, that is the candle flame, and the response, that is the pain that I get. So that is when learning happened, that I should not put my finger in the flame. The first time that I ate ice cream, I realized that ice cream gives me pleasure. So I learned the connection between the stimuli and the response or the pleasure that I get. So again, learning happened. By trial and error, animals identify connections between a stimulus and a satisfying result. These connections are strengthened because of the pleasure they bring. So the first time that I ate ice cream, it gave me pleasure. So I discovered that by trial and error. The next time I decided to try vanilla, and I realized that I like vanilla better than butterscotch. So I discovered that by trial and error, and I continue to do that because of the satisfying result. The third time I might have accidentally tried chocolate flavor, and I realized that among all the flavors, chocolate gives me the maximum amount of pleasure, the maximum amount of satisfaction. So I keep repeating the same thing again and again. So the connection between chocolate ice cream and the pleasure that I get has been strengthened because of the pleasure that I get from that specific flavor. So connectionism, simple theory, it is a connection between stimuli and response. So it can be a positive response or a negative response, but as long as I'm getting a satisfying result, then I learn the connection between that stimulus and that response. And by trial and error, I will naturally discover what is the stimulus that gives me the maximum amount of pleasure or the most satisfying result. And I keep repeating it, and that strengthens the connection between that stimuli and response. Next, let us talk about Thorndike's laws of learning. So these laws can be divided into main laws and subordinate laws. These main laws are very, very simple. The first law says law of readiness. It says that there has to be a readiness to learn. If the child is not ready to learn, if the child is not motivated, then learning will not happen. So law of readiness is nothing but common sense. Then there is law of exercise. It says that whatever has been learned, regular exercise and practice will strengthen that learning. Obviously, if I learn something and if I don't practice it, I'll forget it. If I regularly exercise that learning and if I practice that, then it will strengthen my learning. So this is again common sense. Then there is law of effect. It says that learning happens if the effect is satisfying. Now, in case of a chocolate ice cream, I realized that chocolate gives me maximum amount of pleasure, and that's when I learned the connection between that stimuli and that response. So that's when learning happened. In case of a candle flame, when I put my finger in the candle, then I realized it causes pain. So the most satisfying result is when I see a flame, I should not put my finger in the flame. So that negative response that I'm giving gives me the most satisfying result. Right? Therefore, I learned that I should not put my finger in the candle flame. So that's how law of effect happens, that learning happens if the effect is satisfying. So these are the concepts of connectionism and the laws of learning. And finally, let us talk about Thorndike's subordinate laws of learning. These are not very important, but you should still be aware of them. And they are very simple laws which you can easily understand. Law of multiple responses says that a learner may try multiple responses till a positive outcome is reached. For example, if I'm thirsty and I'm in front of a fruit juice shop, then I might try multiple types of fruit juices till I find that fruit juice which gives me the maximum amount of pleasure. Right? So I'm looking for the most positive outcome here, for which I'm trying multiple responses. Law of set or attitude says that the attitude or a goal set by the learner acts as a motivation by itself. For example, a sports person might set a goal for himself or herself that I have to score a century in a particular match. So that itself acts as a motivation for the way the person will play in that match. A student might set a goal for himself or herself that I need to get a first rank in the final exam. And that itself acts as a motivation for the child to study. Law of pre-potency of elements says that the potent elements will get a higher response. So the most potent element will get the highest response. So potent element means a strong stimuli. So the strongest stimuli will get the maximum response. For example, I went to a friend's house. I was sleeping in a room and I saw one small cockroach walking along the corner of the room. It was a stimulus, right? But it was not strong enough for me to respond to it. So I chose to ignore the cockroach. But there were also some mosquitoes in the room and these mosquitoes were biting me. So the mosquitoes were a more potent stimulus. Therefore, I chose to get up and kill the mosquitoes before I went back to sleep. So a more potent element or a more potent stimulus or a stronger stimulus will get a stronger or a higher response. Law of response by analogy means that learners will first use an older positive experience even in a new situation. I go to my neighbor's house. He has a golden retriever dog and the dog is very friendly. So over a period of time, I have realized that this dog is very friendly. So golden retrievers must be very friendly. Therefore, whenever I see a golden retriever anywhere outside, I think that that dog will be friendly because I associate golden retrievers as a breed with friendly dogs. Law of associative shifting says that the stimulus that gets a response can be slowly shifted. This can be explained using Pavlov's experiment. There was a dog and whenever the dog was shown any meat or food, it would salivate, it would produce saliva. But the same dog would not respond or react when a bell was rung in front of it because it was not associating this bell with anything. So it was not responding to the stimulus. Next, whenever they were giving any food to the dog, they started ringing the bell as well. So the dog would salivate. So initially it was salivating only because of the food, but then it slowly started associating the bell also with food. So finally they reached a stage where just because the bell was rung, the dog would produce saliva or salivate. So which means that the stimulus that gets the response was slowly shifted from this food or meat to the bell. So that is the law of associative shifting.